Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus Bets. I'm your host, the Degen Docs. And look, folks, we got a banger of an episode for you today. We are talking none other than the United Football League playoffs. That is right, folks. The UFL playoffs are here. They are this weekend. We are breaking down both of the games. We've got the Birmingham Stallions taking on the Michigan Panthers, and we got the San Antonio Brahmas heading up to St. Louis to take on those Battle Hawks. We're breaking it all down, and of course, as part of our breakdown, we are giving out our best bets. That is right. I'm giving you a spread, a winner, as in on the money line, and a total for each game, even throwing in a nice futures for you. So that's what we're doing here on this episode 8, UFL playoffs breakdown and best bets. Without further ado, first off, cheers, fellow football fans. It's the postseason, baby. Let's lock in. Let's quickly go over Week 10 recap. Look, I know what you're saying. Does Week 10 really matter? As far as we're in the playoffs, half these teams are eliminated. You're right. Week 10 doesn't matter. Well, last week we had both of these matchups that we were going to see in the exact same locations. We are going to run it back again a week after. No time in between. We are running back these first two matchups. Let's quickly start with the last two matchups there. We hit Arlington on the money line, a little plus money there. Houston, as they've been doing all season, let us down there. Typically like to fade both Memphis and Houston. So Memphis did win the Toilet Bowl. So that means they do have the first round pick in each round of the draft next season for the UFL. So exciting stuff there. But really, as we can see, look at the first 3 games of the weekend came down to 1 point, let alone each game was one possession. I mean, Houston had a chance at the end to go down and score. So really, they all came down to the last play. We had 2 missed field goals, and we had a 4th down stop by Arlington. So what a great week to end on for the UFL there. I thought that was a great showing all around. But hey, we're moving forward. We are now looking towards the playoffs. The playoffs are here. For those that don't know, you've got the USFL conference for all the teams that came from the USFL, the 4 teams. That conference championship, that is going to be your Michigan Panthers heading over to Birmingham to take on the Stallions. That is Saturday, June the 8th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And then Sunday, I think this one's going to be the best game. San Antonio Brahmas heading up to St. Louis in that Battle Dome where the fans absolutely pack it, hoping for another 40,000 plus in St. Louis there. That's at 7 p.m. on Sunday with a nice little nightcap for Sunday night. Look, folks, I hope you're excited as I am. I think this league has been nothing short of a success. I think it's been very fun to watch all these teams get after it. And it's first season, absolutely there's been some instances where they can learn to grow from. But I think overall it's been a very good product. And hey, we're seeing some guys getting the NFL looks, and that's kind of the main thing. I think, David Davis is reportedly going to sign with the Panthers, who could use all the help they could get with Bryce Young in that offense. So I really think it's, it's a really cool league, feeder league that can help some guys that had some untraditional routes, right? Whether it was injury, different, draft situation. These guys, a lot of them can play at a high level. These top guys can definitely play at the next level. So it's cool to see them get their shots. But enough of that future stuff. We're talking this weekend and how we can make you money and cash in those bets, baby. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the first game on the slate. Mentioned it. The 7-3 Michigan Panthers are heading down to Birmingham, Alabama to take on those Stallions, those 2-time defending champion USFL champions, that is, because this is our first UFL champion. So USFL champions, 9-1, the Birmingham Stallions there. First game on the slate. I think it's going to be an interesting one. Look, at this point, we've seen these games at least twice before, right? For both of these matchups, we've seen them twice before. So let's go ahead and look at how those past matchups found out. 2022, 2023, in my opinion, you could just throw them away because completely different coaches. I mean, I think those were Jeff Fisher teams. I mean, Skip Holtz was the coach on Birmingham side, but completely different teams. There's not, we can't take that continuity. It's almost like the college football nowadays. Everybody moves out. It's a completely different team. So obviously you want to look at these for this year. Both one possession games, both opportunities where the Michigan Panthers had a shot to win. And especially that last week really should have won. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we break this one down. As I like to do, let's go ahead and start with the depth chart. So we have one depth chart for Saturday's game where we know exactly who should be playing and the injury situations there. And then Sunday, as typical UFL fashion, we only got one practice report. So we got an idea, but it'll be a little that kind of guesstimation, or as we call it in the Army, a little bit of swag, scientific wild ass guess. Yes, that's what we'll be doing there. But like I said, we got the depth chart for this one. So let's take a look, folks. Biggest things to take away. First off, Michigan quarterback situation. It's been all over the place. We started the year with EJ Perry. He went down / kind of sucked. Danny Etling came in and he got injured. We had then Brian Lewerke and Bryce Perkins kind of trading off. They quickly realized Lewerke's kind of sucks. And Bryce Perkins actually played pretty well. But unfortunately, he hurt himself last game. He wasn't really the starter anyway. He was kind of coming in as a change of pace guy because he was absolutely their most electric quarterback. But he unfortunately hurt himself. He's out for the season. So Perkins is out. So Etling looks like he's slotted in at QB1 because EJ Perry is not fully back from his injury. I think regardless of health outside of Perkins, this is the right situation for Michigan to go ahead and start him at quarterback. A little bit concerning, though, for me, more so would be the left tackle Ryan Pope is out. Jarrett Horst has came in. He's played a decent amount of games this year because Pope has frankly been injured. He's had trouble staying on the field, but he is a bit of a drop off there. So that's a little bit concerning. However, last week when Michigan played this game where they only lost by one and really on a Jake Bates missed field goal, which there's not a lot of those this year, they really should have won that game. We'll get more into that. But they were missing, running back Matt Colburn, who's now the starter essentially because Wes Hills, their original starter, is out for the year. They're one of the best wide receivers in the entire UFL, and Marcus Sims was out, and 3 starters on defense were also out. So it's a situation where, yes, Michigan is dealing with a couple injuries. Really, again, that left tackle Pope is kind of the biggest thing for me. But they're getting, if that's 5 guys back that they did not have in a game they really should have won against the same team here. On the Birmingham side of the ball, they are a lot healthier as far as coming in. But again, Michigan's not really dealing with too much. Really, for Birmingham, the biggest thing I see is Mark Gilbert. He was a stud early part of the year for them at cornerback. He is unfortunately out. He had a neck injury, and he has kind of not really been able to come back to the lineup. So they've been able to kind of deal without him, slotting some other guys in there. But I do think he was one of their better corners. So I do still count that as a loss. But other than that, Birmingham is pretty healthy. They got their running back Pearson back. Ricky Pearson, who missed the last game. He's a tough runner. So that is a plus for them on that side. So some guys coming back, more guys coming back for Michigan than for Birmingham, but really both these teams are pretty healthy. It's really just kind of one key starter out on both sides. So pretty even there in my opinion. All right. So we looked at kind of, these last games and how things went there. And I really want to spend a little bit more time, looking at this week 10 game, because obviously this is a situation where we just saw this game, less than a week ago at this point, we just saw this game. And I think it was a situation where Danny Etling actually played pretty well there. He had, let's look at his numbers, pull those up for you real quick. So Etling had 16 for 31, so about 52 completion percentage, which isn't great, but 195 yards, a touchdown. He also had 4 carries for 36 yards on the ground and a touchdown with a long of 23. So as much as Bryce Perkins is definitely more electric, Etling is no slouch on the ground. I think he was able to run the offense efficiently. And honestly, when you look at these numbers, the Michigan Panthers should not have lost this game. Really, when you look at the comparison, they outgained Birmingham by over 100 yards. They didn't really turn the ball over. Really, they were 0 for 1 in the red zone, or Birmingham was 2 for 2. That's probably where the game changed the most. But they also got called for 10 penalties. Birmingham had a little bit of a friendly whistle there. Looking at this game, sacks were a big thing. Michigan had 5 sacks where Birmingham only had 1 sack. I know in that first matchup, that was a big where Birmingham was getting a lot of sacks and Michigan wasn't. So I really like the way Michigan played. I almost like the fact that they lost that game to kind of get that revenge angle. Hey, we haven't beat this team yet. We've been so close. I think, this is a good opportunity for them to get that monkey off their back. And, Marcus Sims is coming back. He is one of the fastest players in the entire UFL. I think obviously that's a big boost for that offense. And also with him being out, it allowed Etling and Sayosi, excuse me for the pronunciation, definitely pronouncing that wrong, but Mariner, wide receiver for the Panthers, they connected for 7 catches and 110 yards and a touchdown last week. So there's been an obvious connection between Etling and Mariner, and now you got Marcus Sims coming back and Matt Colburn, who's a threat out of the backfield. Man, I just really like the way that Michigan has seemed to kind of figure out this Birmingham team, both on the offensive side and on defense, right? They held Adrian Martinez, who has absolutely lit some teams up, to only 163 yards, 50% completion rating. And, they gave up 100 yards on the ground. I do think that, Birmingham is going to have their success through the ground. I think Pearson is a good runner. But if they can make them a little bit one-dimensional, no one's really been able to do that outside of San Antonio, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, to Birmingham. So, look, you guys can tell where I'm going with this. I know everybody, who all the casuals and everyone just wants to see, just give me Birmingham and St. Louis. They've got to be the best 2 teams. Like, let's have that for the championship. Man, call it contrarian, call it what you want, but I'm taking Michigan +5. I think 5 points is just too much, and I think these teams are very even, right? If anything, this should be at a 3. This should be a field goal game. I know we get some weird scores in the UFL. I get it, but I just think, I really think that Michigan has a really good shot to win. Birmingham just seems to have a rabbit up their ass, frankly. So, I'm not ready to pull. I really was close to Michigan being my dog this week, but I think I'm gonna go to the other game. But I do like them. Give me Michigan +5. Also, give me the under 43. These are 2 of the better defenses. I really these last 4 teams has the 4 best defenses. Pretty obvious left in the league. But I think both these teams are just so evenly matched, and now it's the 3rd time they're playing each other this season. So they're going to be very, very familiar with each other. I just think this is going to be a just tough, grounded out game like the first 2 has been. I think it's going to come down to the final possession. Man, I think really both these games I think are going to be absolutely amazing games. But give me Michigan +5, under 43. I'm so close to be pulling. So they're +220 on the money line. I just could see another game where, it's 2019, 21-19, 10-13, something close where Michigan is, looks like they're going to pull it off, and then Birmingham just comes out of nowhere and does it. So not quite pulling the trigger there on the money line, but, I'm definitely not taking Birmingham money line either. So give me the Michigan +5 for the best bet, and the under 43. I really like that under there. Again, both these first 2 games have gone under. I understand Birmingham has the number 1 scoring offense in basically every category. I get it. They have a great offense, but Michigan really has seemed to figure them out. Held them to 20 points in both these matchups, which for playing against Birmingham, that's pretty damn good, right? And Michigan isn't really an offense that really kind of scores a ton. They really have long, methodical drives, and Birmingham has a pretty good defense. So again, Michigan +5, under 43. We're halfway through. Only 2 games this week, but man, they are going to be 2 great games. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is must-watch TV for me. Come on now. All right. We're halfway there. You know what that means, folks? We got to pay some bills here. Keep those lights on. So let me tell you about some of our great sponsors here at IDP Plus. First off, hey, listen, we got the Fantasy Football Expo coming up in August. If you're watching this, you're obviously a football fan. You love football. You're like us here at IDP Plus. Injected in my veins, right? All types of football. Let's fucking go. So, you're already coming out to Canton for the Fantasy Football Expo, but you want another reason? I'll give you one. How about Saturday, August 10th? Join us at the Brew Kettle next to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for a drafting extravaganza. For the first time ever, we're making history, folks. We're making history. IDP Plus is hosting an IDP League, so be part of that history. Check out the link in the show description and get signed up today. Let's go, baby. What's better part than being part of history and drafting football? NFL's right around the corner. I'm going straight from the UFL championship. We're getting ready for trading camp, and we're going to be right there. But talking about draft season, it's fantasy football season. It's ramping up, right? It's really kind of turns once we get past, 4th of July for sure. But once we kind of make that turn where we get from looking right into summer to, hey, it's football season. So with it being draft season, go ahead and get in the game right now with our friends over at Trophy Smack for their gorgeous draft boards, player stickers, all the names that you could possibly need. And for the first time, Trophy Smack has an IDP expansion pack for all the defensive nerds. Check that out. It's going to be in the show link as well. I'm pretty sure Trophy Smack's one of the only ones to cater to weirdos who like defense like us, because defense is real football. Hey, listen, I love offense too, but if you're only looking at one side of the ball, what are you doing? But Trophy Smack, love those guys over there. They really, they show out. They really love football, and they've got those IDP player names, so we can take part in all that offensive fun little sissy stuff. So both of those are going to be description in the show notes, so make sure you check that stuff out. And finally, my friends over at Expedia, look, everybody loves going on vacation. No one loves actually going through all the websites. And look, I don't want to spend an arm and a leg just to go on vacation. Do want to enjoy it. I want to make sure, I get a good deal. And instead of having to have 50 tabs open and ask the wife, like, hey, dude, what'd you find? Or we got, whatever this is, just go to Expedia. They're the one-stop shop for everything travel that you need. And we're going to make the deal a little bit sweeter. So as an affiliate partner, we have a special link that we're going to put down in the description that as a fan of us, you get the opportunity to use, gives you special discounts, deals, stuff like that. So make sure you check that out. Again, all that's in the show note, folks. All right. Halftime, intermission. Let's hydrate. Good stuff. Shout out Peerless there over in Kentucky. Louisville had a nice little tasting. Get a little free glass there. So a little sidetrack, but Bourbon City, man. If you haven't checked out Louisville, Kentucky, I had low expectations going in. If you like whiskey, especially bourbon, that's a damn good time right there. All right, folks, back on track. XFL Conference Championship. Like I said, I'm excited for both games, and I am absolutely jacked for this game. I am pumped up for this game. Maybe it's because we actually have a home field environment, right, with St. Louis and that crowd. Like, if you are a St. Louis Battlehawk fan, shout out to you, especially if you made the trip over to the Dome there. That has been awesome to see. I know as a new league, attendance is a thing and trying to get people engagement, but clearly there's crazy folks like myself and people in St. Louis who love football enough to go out and support their local team. Here where I'm at over in Virginia, they're unfortunately not a local team, but as I was saying, when I was in San Antonio for a training up there, got to go to a Brahmas game. Absolutely electric environment in that Alamo Dome. So I can only imagine what that dome up in St. Louis is like. So shout out to you guys. But this is the second game on our slate. As I like to do, let's start with the injury report. As I mentioned before, we don't have as much information here. I would expect honestly, typically what happens is, almost like we'll get the depth chart tomorrow. So make sure you're checking out for that. If you follow me on X at the Degen Doc, I will definitely be posting that, making sure I get that up because we got a couple questions here. So on the San Antonio side, look, last week they played without their two starting running backs, John Levitt and Anthony McFarland. Both those guys have shown in their own right to be electric and to really be RB1s in their own right. John Levitt looks like he's in a practice in a limited fashion. It's unfortunate that McFarland hasn't practiced yet, but both those guys have a shot. They both sat out last week with obviously the intention of trying to make it through. Another kind of development, Twyman there has been playing well for them at defense tackle out of Pitt there. So it's good to see he's limited. And Chase Garbers, it was a pretty not so great sight. He was obviously missed the majority of the season with the same wrist injury. He got hurt last week. I kind of thought he might be shut down, but the fact he had a limited practice obviously means he has a shot. So something to definitely monitor there. But in general, I would expect at this point Lovett to play. So I think with Lovett and Morgan Ellison, that can give you a solid 1-2 punch in the backfield. And if McFarland's able to play, man, I really, really like that running back room there in San Antonio. For me, I understand. I think Garbers is a better, really game manager than Quentin Dormany there, who's your other quarterback option. But Dormany definitely is the gunslinger. He's definitely going to be pushing the ball downfield. And before Garbers got hurt, that San Antonio offense wasn't doing a whole lot last week. And Dormany kind of came in and was a shot in the arm. So, we'll see who kind of plays QB1 there. Definitely some questions going in. Battlehawks side, a lot less questions for them. Really, the biggest thing is looks like they're going to be out their stud special teamer, Chris Garrett there. I think he actually just won Special Team Player of the Year from the league. Other than that, their tackle, Vidal Alexander, he's a starter on the offensive line, so it'd be important for him to go. So we'll kind of monitor that. But a lot of the other guys are kind of backup reserves, nothing that's too crazy for them. It's free safety Cole, who stepped in from Bed DeLuca. He makes an impact as well. So, both these teams got some questions coming in. It's obviously a lot of that guesstimation at this point. I would think that at least Lovett, one of the running backs, is able to go for San Antonio. We'll see what Garbers is up to. But both these teams fairly healthy, a little bit banged up. For St. Louis, definitely looking like a little bit the healthier team at this point. However, let me mention, AJ McCarron got hurt, a couple weeks ago at this point. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. He played in his first action last week to kind of lock up home field for them. But do not get it twisted. No matter what these TV Fox tries to sell you, right? Despite them, for whatever freaking reason, giving him player of the game with this stat line, let me make myself clear. Yes, St. Louis won last week, barely off a missed field goal, but they won last week. But it was not because of AJ McCarron. 10 for 24, 115 yards, a pick and a touchdown? Are you serious? Give the player of the game to defense. How about holding the team to 12 points or somebody else? I mean, that's absurd. That is just clear quarterback bias there. Look, you can see it last week. You can see it in the numbers. AJ McCarron is healthy enough, but he's not fully healthy on that ankle. The one time he ran and he got tackled, a legal tackle, obviously the guy went low because if you hit a guy high, you're going to get a penalty. They like Anthony Beck and McCarron absolutely flipped out, man. Flipped out. And I like Anthony Beck as a coach, and I he's done a good job. But man, if you're going to let your starting quarterback, if you're going to let somebody play, you have to understand the risks in that. If you're going to throw somebody out there when they're still not fully healthy, it's the game of football. I understand he's a quarterback, but he was a runner, and that was a legal hit. That was, if you watched the game last week, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. Essentially, AJ McCarron rolled out. He was, he was looking to get a first down. He was running the sideline, clearly still in bounds. He could have slid. He could have dove. He could have done whatever. He did not. He just decided to try to think he was going to just let himself go out of bounds. Cornerback for St. Louis, cornerback for San Antonio, Tease Tabor, former Gator. Shout out Gators. Where is it at? There it is. Former Gator. He tackled him. He hit him low, and it wound up hitting that ankle. That is an injured ankle there. And they absolutely had a cow on that St. Louis sideline. It was just kind of a ridiculous show. Like, it wasn't really. It did not look like a dirty hit at all. It was inbounds. It was a legal hit. It was anyway. I don't think AJ McCarron is fully 100%. Obviously, if they wouldn't be having an absolute conniption on the sidelines if he was, just from getting his ankle tapped. Like, come on now. So I think that he's going to be dealing with a little bit of mobility issues. And, man, this San Antonio defense, for me, they are the number one scoring defense, number one in yards allowed, the best against the pass, and they have the sack-leading defense. So you got a quarterback who's a little banged up in the ankle. Mobility's a little down. Already a good defense. Now they're going to be getting after him. Now we're going to be requiring AJ McCarron to maybe get out of the pocket, maybe take more hits to that ankle. Re-injury, right? Obviously, hope that he's able to be healthy enough to make it through the game and stuff like that. But it's a situation where I don't believe he's fully healthy, and I like this defense. I mean, they held this really potent St. Louis offense to 13 points last week, and they held Birmingham to 9 the week before. I just think they're clicking on all cylinders. Now, St. Louis on the other side of the ball, their defense is no slouch by any means. They're third best defense, better against the pass than run in a similar fashion to San Antonio, actually. And they just, the real difference is their sacks. So I did want to pull this up because it's pretty interesting. I talked about how at this point all 4 of these teams have good defenses, right? They're in the playoffs, right? But let's take a look at these numbers right here and look at how similar these defensive numbers are, right? So, points allowed, but you look at the points per game. Let's obviously, there it is. All right, points per game. Everyone's 17 and below, 17 and 0.7 and below, right? So within 3 points, these are the top defenses, these T4 teams left. You look at something like yards per game. Look at San Antonio and St. Louis here. 1 yard off. And then you go to the rush, 1 yard off. Like, they are so similar of defensive, right? Like, the difference here is, San Antonio lets up less points, about 3 a game per average, and they also have almost double the sacks, right? So that is some key differences there. But even if you look at, you look at the Stallions and Michigan here, both really good against the run, less than a yard difference there, and a little bit more susceptible against the pass, and within 1 sack of each other. So as I was looking through the stats and kind of pulling stuff up, I just thought that was crazy how similar these teams are. Like, these teams on paper, these teams on film, these teams on the stats, like, these are going to be really, really close contested games. And I think it's going to make for an absolute hell of a playoff. We're going to have some great games. So I'm very excited. I was just like, wow, like, I knew these teams were close, but that's pretty crazy. So let's take a look at the last 2 times these two teams played each other during the season. St. Louis won both, similar to the Birmingham situation. The first game was by 7 points there. And then the last game was by 1. It's literally an exact script from the Birmingham, Michigan situation, right? So you have the underdog here who hasn't won. Last time they just played, they lost by 1. Both teams lost, lining up for they tried a game-winning field goal. Both kickers missed, right? Both kickers who have been pretty good. San Antonio, Ryan Santoso struggled a bit of late, but man, they were both right there. And now you have a situation where they're both catching points. San Antonio is catching 3 points, unders 44. They're plus 140 on the money line. And, let's dive into that last game really quickly. They outgained St. Louis by, I think, 80 yards. Let me take a look real quick. Let's see here. By about 73 yards, they outgained St. Louis by. They were 1 for 2 in the red zone. They did have a fumble lost and an interception. So, that obviously the 2 turnovers compared to the St. Louis's 1 obviously was a little bit maybe of the difference there. But again, I think they outplayed this St. Louis team, and they weren't the healthiest, right? Especially in that offensive backfield there with the running back situation. I think if you get even one of John Lovett or Anthony McFarland back, that makes a difference, right? If you can get them both, I like it even more. So I mean, the writing's been on the wall here. Also, another thing about this situation that if you weren't watching the game, you probably didn't know. So it's a situation where the UFL only have like 6 mics in helmets that you can put. So it's up to you to kind of divvy that out. So not everyone gives it to their second string quarterback. They didn't give it to Quentin Dormady. So when Garbers went down, Dormady had to go back and forth from the sidelines every play to get the play on some old Mark Whipple, Kenny Pickett stuff. Like, just it was tough. And obviously that's the worst environment to do that in. So I fully expect San Antonio to learn from their mistakes. And, we'll see if Garbers is even active. But, I think Dormady's going to have a mic in his helmet, right? So I don't think they're going to have to deal with that. That was just terrible for their offensive flow. So for several reasons, writing's on the wall. Give me San Antonio, baby. They've been my team. I don't know if it was being in San Antonio watching that game, but ever since then, man, their defense. Their defense, right? Defense wins championships. I'm buying in. That defensive line has numerous guys who can get after the quarterback. I think that's the biggest thing. They have some solid secondary play. If you got good D-line, good secondary play, I understand the St. Louis offense has a lot of playmakers, but man, they frustrated him last week. And I think they're going to bring even more pressure this week. I'm very excited to see the San Antonio defense just take full effect. Jontre Kirkland for San Antonio is unstoppable. I don't know who can cover him for the St. Louis side. And you got Justin Smith and Stevenson as a pretty good duo as well for the other wide receivers. So San Antonio to cover 3, under 44. Again, I've talked about San Antonio's defense is solid. It's the best unit in the league for a reason. St. Louis is no slouch either. San Antonio, much like Michigan, they like the long, methodical drives. Dormady is a little bit more of a gunslinger, but if Garbers is in, it's going to be a lot more of methodical stuff, dink and dunk, making your way down the field. So I like the under 44 there, and it's the playoffs. It's the playoffs, baby. We got to turn up the intensity. Defense is going to be flying around. And this is where I will definitely pull the trigger on the money line. Give me the plus 140 for San Antonio. And that brings me into my favorite future, right? So obviously the futures market right now, I'm looking at DraftKings. You got your Birmingham Stallions are your favorites at minus 115. St. Louis is plus 255 as the next favorite. And then you got Michigan Panthers at plus 600 and San Antonio Brahmas at plus 650. I'm absolutely 100% all in on San Antonio. Give me San Antonio at plus 650. I think it's an absolute gift that they are I don't even understand. Like, riddle me this, right? So you have the situation where San Antonio is only 3-point underdogs, where Michigan is 5-point underdogs. Michigan opened up at 6.5-point underdogs. San Antonio opened up at 3.5, right? So it's not even like an open line, movement situation. So you're telling me that it's a lot more unlikely for Michigan to win this week, right? And then, okay, so Birmingham, I understand they're a good team, right? But San Antonio just beat them. 2 weeks ago, right? So I don't really get, what the logic is about San Antonio being the real dark horse here at the plus 650. So I'm just going to say thank you to the sports books, and we're just going to ride, right? San Antonio reminds me of a scrappy team with a solid defense and a quarterback who could just get it done and just be clutch in the right moments. Of course, I'm talking about my New York Football Giants, baby. 2007, 2011, Eli Manning leading them down. Look, that's what I see in the San Antonio Brahmas team. I think they're going to get it done. And it all starts this week, baby. So quick little week recap there. 2 games on the slate. We've got, of course, Michigan at 7-3, heading down to Birmingham to take on the Stallions there. Give me Michigan plus 5 and the under 43 there. And then San Antonio heads up to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks. Give me San Antonio plus 3, under 44. Give me San Antonio on the money line. And San Antonio Brahmas to win the UFL championship. Get the future right now at plus 650. All right, folks. Look, cheers. Made it through the episode. Really quickly here. I hope you've enjoyed, recapping and talking ball this whole week. UFL has been absolutely a fun league. We're going to have an episode next week, so it's not like this is the last one. Championship episode. Is it going to be Brahmas Panthers? Is it going to be Brahmas Stallions? Are we going to give the public what they want in the Stallions and the Battlehawks? We'll see. We'll break all that down next week, but make sure. Another thing I like to give out is some plays over at Underdog Fantasy. Actually, UFL just announced an exclusive partnership with Underdog Fantasy, so they're obviously going to continue this moving forward. But they do they're one of the only places that give me that have player props. I think ESPN Bet has it as well, but I'm a DraftKings guy, so they don't do it there. So this is where I kind of get my draft bets. I will do along with these best bets, I will put out an underdog play of the week. This was the play last week. You see we had a nice 6x cash here. So definitely a good opportunity to kind of build up the units there. And it's a fun way to kind of bet these games in a different style. I will say I would love to give one out today, but they don't typically put the lines out until like Friday afternoon, Friday evening is what I've noticed. So that is more of a reason to go ahead and give me a follow on X or TikTok at the Degen Jock on both. And I will absolutely be putting that out. I'm going to make sure we get the depth chart for the next game and kind of putting little tips and tricks. But don't worry, folks. We're still riding Michigan. We're still riding the unders, and we're still taking San Antonio. That will not change. But just go ahead and follow me for those underdog plays and to get that updated injury updates and to see who's really going to be in for San Antonio and for St. Louis there. All right, folks. It's been a blast. I hope you're as jacked up as I am for these playoff games. Absolutely so excited. Hey, 2 more weeks left of football until the National Football League is all in our eyes. But let's wrap it up with the UFL, United Football League. All right, folks, for the UFL playoffs breakdown and best bets, I'm the Degen Doc. And as always, have a great week, and I'll see you next time, folks.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.